Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy, and governance. I am Shafiu Suleiman. The Ajaokuta-Kaduna-Kano gas pipeline project was approved for construction by the Federal Executive Council in December 2017. The $2.8 billion gas project was expected to transport gas from Ajaokuta, covering about 633 kilometers to Kaduna and Kano State, and projected to be delivered within the period of 24 months, starting from the year 2020. 6 months to the deadline for the delivery of this legacy project of the Buhari administration. There are growing concerns over the realization of the multi-billion-dollar project, despite its capacity to boost Nigeria's agricultural and manufacturing sectors. It is equally projected to play a key role in implementing measures aimed at cutting down global warming due to excessive gas emission and channel SIM to power gas-based industries that could add value to the nation's economy. To discuss these issues and more, we have in the studio the chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, AKK, who is also an expert in the energy sector, talking about Engineer Yabagi Yusuf Sadi. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Shafiu, for having me. Thank you,
also
listeners.
Joining us for the discussion is the former Senior Public Affairs Officer of the Nigeria Liquefied Gas Construction Project in Bonny Island, Eliasu Gadu. Is also a public commentator. Thank you for joining us.
I'm glad to be here. Good evening, viewers.
Now, before we commence the discussions, we'll take a short break. Stay with us. Thank you very much for staying with us. And today we're looking at AKK, of course, revisiting Africa's largest Trans-Saharan gas pipeline project. And just like I said earlier on, we have in the studio experts in this sector who together will be dissecting the issues around the challenges of delivering this very important project. Let me start with Engineer Abagi. There has been so much, hype, around the commencement of this project, the AKK, especially looking at what it has in terms of changing, or adding value to the economy. Sometimes it's a legacy project of this administration, looking at, the quantum and the investment, 2.8 billion US dollars. It's not a small amount of money. But with the recent, what is gradually coming to the public domain, is that the withdrawal of Chinese, who initially were to provide this funding, has significant impact in the stalemate, if you like. But there are other factors. How are you looking at this project and now that it is told along the line?
Well, Shafiu, it's sad that the project is going this way. And the reasons are that if you look at it from the global perspective, one, Nigeria is actually a gas country in the sense that we are ranked as number 4 amongst the gas producing countries in the world after Russia, Kuwait, and I think Qatar or something like that. So you will now find that given the world economic agenda of how to articulate the issue of energy transition, meaning that going from fossil fuel to more friendly energy, like the renewable energies and things like that. when you look at also the issue of climate change, the degradation of these, emission of the gas, to the ozone atmosphere, and also the economic advantages that will come. What am I trying to say? All along we've just been flaring, this gas, and of course it has its own ecological, problems.
Wasting energy, resources that is badly needed by other continents.
Yes. So what I'm trying to say is that you would have killed two birds with one stone. Here you would have reduced to a very minimal level the degradation of the environment, meaning the warming of the environment, the global warming I'm talking about. As far as we are concerned, that would have some impact. And we may even earn some advantages, some even in terms of material gain from the global community. Number two, we would have also been able to use this to now transform agriculture sector, industrial, sector, because instead of you battling with this power generation issue, if you have this gas, that you are able to now tap from the various points where we are flaring them, and then transmit them through this AKK, to not only the northern part, but also up to the Sahara, because it's going to go into the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline,
and,
Morocco and to Europe. And given the scenario we have today of Ukraine, Russia, and the fact that EU, they are now at sea as to how they are going to solve these economic problems. Yes, exactly. So it would have been a very, very good opportunity for Nigeria to now make the best of what God has given to us. So the point I'm trying to make is that it's a tragedy that this project, which would have been the signature project, which would have been the legacy that Buhari administration can say they have left for generations yet unborn, in terms of, revitalizing the economy, and then, if you like, a kind of great leap forward for economic transformation, because gas, we know everywhere, like I've said, both agriculture sector, industrial sector, and these are the main sectors. When you're talking about boost your GDP, that's gross domestic product, these are the areas
critical
that feed
sectors.
exactly into GDP. So which means even your naira will become stronger because your product, your GDP, that means your productivity has improved. And then talk about North in particular, you see, where there's abject poverty. And this abject poverty, of course, is also powered by the fact that we don't have steady supply of power, because these small scale industries rely on steady supply, and even the big industries for that matter, would have been benefited, largely from this project that today is being handled with the kind of levity that you would expect not to come.
Okay.
So
yes, Mr. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I think you laid sufficient background.
Okay.
Looking at the current situation, funding is said to be the bane of this project. The Chinese are pulling out, and then government is looking at alternative funding avenues and what have you. But then some would say if there is perhaps enough will, if you like, or there's a lot more commitment, there could be other areas that can be blocked, wastages, for instance, that could perhaps be channeled towards, realizing this project, instead of just waiting to, endlessly waiting for alternative financiers or people who will fund the project. Take, for instance, earlier on we were having a conversation, and engineer was talking about even the huge amount of money that is being wasted, or the stalling that is being stolen, in our crude oil sector, gas and crude oil sector and what have you. Is enough, within a year, if you look at the amount that is being lost by Nigeria, is enough to finance this project. But yet, here we are, hand in hand.
I think what we have to understand critically is that gas projects in this country have with the exception of the Nigeria liquefied natural gas, have always been jinxed. It's not that we don't have the gas. We have it, as the engineer has said, quite right.
We're talking about 208.62 trillion cubic feet.
Yeah, in fact, it is often said that the oil that we have exists in a sea of gas. That's to tell you the quantum of gas we have. And it's correct. But you see, the issue of gas is the mix. It's a complex thing, and I want to tell you, even the NLNG was in gestation period for about 30 years before it, came into fruition. And that's not because we don't have the gas. That's not because the gas is not available, but it's because of the mix. The gas issue is not like the crude oil, for instance, where you can gas off and do things. In the gas, you need to have financing taken care of. You need to have the markets taken care of. You need to have all of these front end activities taking place before you.
Are we lacking the market? For instance, I understand that EU alone, rely on Nigeria's gas. 18% of what the EU requirement is. It is made by Nigeria.
No, but let me make the point.
Is it that we don't have the market?
We have the capacity to produce. As I said, we have very huge reserves of gas, but there are issues regarding that. The technical issues, the commercial issues, the security issues. Now, as I'm talking to you now, one of the problems that NLNG is having is ability to get the feed gas from the field. The plants are there, but the feed gas is there, and of course, you have to have the technical aspects taken care of, because if you don't have them, all of this in the mix together, you can never have the gas. For instance, we conceived an independent power in NIPP. It never took off the ground. There are several LPG initiatives, never took off the ground. We wanted to do additional LNG, OK LNG and brass LNG. It never took off the ground. But the one that has taken off the ground, which is NLNG itself, is struggling to even have feedstock. Now, if you put a project like AKK, where of course you still have not been able to get together, where the feedstock is going to come from, because the feedstock is going to come from gas gathering plants that would now feed Ajaokuta and then into the pipelines right through the Trans-Saharan.
But why is it difficult to get that?
Yeah, because first of all, there are security issues, because there's a lot of pipeline vandalization, and then around that area. There's a lot of interference in the system. There's a lot of technical issues, a lot of commercial issues, a lot of security issues. Now, I understand the AKK is supposed to be part of the Trans-Saharan gas. Nigeria has actually 3 options supplying gas to Western markets. It has the Trans-Saharan gas. It has the West African gas that will through Morocco. This one goes through Algeria, and then it has gas through tankers. That's through an LNG plant, for instance, whether in Brass or somewhere in OK or somewhere in OK LNG. But the issue now is having to be able to put together the feedstock and also the financing. Now, financing is very critical now, because at the moment, finance is pretty much a challenge in the international system, and also getting the partners to come in here. It was by stroke of luck, if I would say, that we were able to get the partners, Shell, Shell Gas, Ajib, and Total, to come into partnership with NNPC to develop the NLNG. Now, the other LNG plants that were planned didn't get off because these issues were not taken care of. And I'm afraid the same thing is happening with the AKK. And it's a tragedy, because it is actually one of the things that would have helped to develop the economies. I mean, the economy, revive the economy, the comatose economy of northern Nigeria. Because if you notice, Kano used to be an industrial town. Kaduna, most of the industries now have gone off because of lack of power supply, and the AKK was supposed to help it, because as the main trunk line goes off to the transport, there will be spurs into certain areas that will supply gas, LPG, LNG, into that, rejuvenating the power sector there and helping small-scale industries, revive them and all that. But all that now has gone into a question mark.
Right, the projection, just like he said, was actually to revive this moribund, industries, and the hubs, talking about the Kaduna, Kakuri, Sharaɗa, Funtua, and all of that. But with this, where we find ourselves today, all of this hope, is about to be dashed by inability to secure these funds. But funding, as critical as it is, also there are avenues where some will say, where government can source these funds. If we can be able to source funds, perhaps to pay for subsidy, which is some shadowy kind of subsidy, to the tune of 6 trillion naira there are the projection looking at next year. What stops us from whatever it takes for us to borrow, if it means borrowing, to finance this project because of this the importance?
Yeah, you see, it's all about leadership incompetence. That's what has led us to where we are today, as far as this project is concerned. Because I remember when Obasanjo came to power, well, one of the first things he did was to ensure that the Southwest was, piped. Gas was piped to most of the all the industries in the Southwest, and that's why the kind of problems we are having here, the Southwest, does not suffer from such problems.
Because the industries are up and doing.
Up and doing. Gas, they are, Obasanjo ensured that was there. So I thought that Buhari perhaps was trying to repeat, to do the same thing, so as to revitalize and, maintain, the economy, the domestic economy of the North, which is critical to the
even
survival
to the security of the nation.
Of the nation. That's what I'm saying.
What we are seeing today in terms of insecurity.
Funding, like my colleague here was saying, funding will become a problem. You know why? Because, like he was saying, even the NLNG today is finding it difficult to get feedstock supply from the gas fields. Simply because of the vandalization, insecurity, that has, and then outright stealing of the gas, of the oil, crude oil theft, from the Niger Delta, area. So, and then to the tune, LNG announced, was it about last 2 months or so, or recently, really, that they've lost about $7 billion, so far in 2022 alone. $7 billion. This project you are talking about is only about 2.8 billion. So which means
almost 3 times
1 year you can finance 3 times the size of this project, and you'll be okay. You're not even taking into account about $4.something billion that NAITI always come out with that in their audit, the annual audit that NAITI carries out of the oil and gas sector.
Part of what Nigeria is losing.
Yes, so if you add all this together, you can see how a basket case we are, and as a result of incompetence of leadership. So the issue is not really about funding. The issue is about leadership, about the fact that we have taken such a careless, or maybe, we don't care about who is stealing, our money, and then nobody cares. It's like everything is okay, provided.
And yet we are crying.
Look at why can't we get money? Look at the debt we have piled up. We don't have enough revenue today to even service the debt. We are now borrowing to service debt. So which means the country is almost broke. I can't say it's broke yet, but we're almost there. It's out at the tipping point. So the issue now that one should address is how quickly can we wake up? In this country,
we have a couple of months for this.
No. I'm talking about the next administration, like Action Democratic Party administration. Believe you me, we get to be in power in this country. Believe me, this country will never believe that it's the same Nigeria that we have been talking about. Because you see, issue of insecurity, issue of retrogression of the economy, issue of stealing, it's just around one sector of the economy that you can really, if you want to, manage properly, micromanage it, because there's something wrong in micromanaging 80% of your revenue. If I'm getting 80% of revenue from one sector or 90% of revenue from one sector, and I micromanage it,
But with all the experience,
challenge me?
With all the position and experience of President Muhammadu Buhari, as a substantive minister of petroleum, for instance, and then the experience he has also.
What has come out? What has come out is that President Muhammadu Buhari is not experienced in the workings of the oil and gas industry. He is not. He's only experienced in signing papers, bringing policy documents. No, I'm being frank with you. You know, he is not experienced in the workings, the integrities of how the oil and gas sector, operates.
But if he's not that, experienced,
we're
talking about even conception of the project itself means that the government is also thinking,
at that level, at the level of ministers, a lot would have happened. All that comes to you is well-packaged document that all they say, sir, sign here. If you ask questions, say, no, sir, this is the reason why we are saying. So the issue is that you need somebody who has perhaps hands-on experience on the workings of this oil and gas sector.
Okay, understanding the workings and then also looking at the realities. We're talking about funding, we're talking about security, we're talking about technical issues that need to be addressed and so on and so forth. But again, there are other avenues, where government can raise the money, especially now, taking advantage of the Ukraine, Russia war. European countries and other Western countries are finding and looking for alternative market.
Yeah,
and that also becomes should put Nigeria on an advantage position, for instance. And now that we have EU, coming also wanting to do business with us, some experts say, why don't the government partner with this international partners to secure, if you like, finance in advance, that it can be paid later. It's all over the world.
But I want you to understand. Let's have an understanding of the gas business. It's quite gas and petrol. Yes, they are in the same. But gas is specific, has its own specific issues that has to be addressed. For instance, you don't build an LNG plant or you don't build a gas plant if you do not have a market. You need to be able to tie up, the commercial aspect long before you even get to even start to do it.
But that's what I'm talking about. So if you have ready-made buyers, people who are ready to partner with you, and
there are several things you have to look at. First of all, you have to invest in the carriage. You have to invest in taking the gas from where it exists to where it's needed. That's where the commercial aspect is. Then in between, let me just explain this. In between, there are technical issues regarding even conveying it. You have to also settle that. Now, this contract, AKK contract, is what they call EPC contract. Engineering, procurement, and construction. First of all, you have to do the designing. That's where the engineering comes in, isn't it, sir? Yeah. You have to do the engineering to know the kind of pipeline you are going to build. You have to know the soil texture. You have to know the pressure of the pipeline, the diameter and dimension. You have to know how it goes. For instance, you are going to build this pipeline that's going to go through, not swampy areas. You have to look at the specifics of where the pipeline is, all that. And then the detailed engineering has to take into consideration certain new aspects of engineering regarding pipeline construction. Then you come and do the procurements. That's why it's called EPC contract, engineering, procurement.
But haven't we gone past that? For instance, now we have the project, already taken up. I've seen the, if you take a look at, from Ajaokuta down to, close to Abuja, you find the pipes being laid, And that shows that government is. The project is in progress.
Yeah, but then the Chinese who are committed to supplying about 80% of the financing have pulled out for reasons of security. Yeah. They can't put their men out there when they keep getting kidnapped or keep getting killed and all that, and they also want to ensure that their money is going to, because there's going to be a transition in government. They want to know that the next coming government is going to agree to pay, to continue with the project, or at least pay what is required. Yeah. And then at the end of the day, you also have to consider where will be the receiving terminals. Because the project is actually supposed to go right up across the Sahara to Algeria, where it now goes. So you have to look at all that mix. And then most of the people who are going to use it in Europe are utilities. Utility companies that supply electricity to that. They also have to build receiving terminals. You are not just going to take it to them. They have to have receiving terminals.
All of this has not been put into consideration before.
We are only talking about AKK in Nigeria. Those other aspects regarding the one that will transit from Nigeria to what you call it, to Algeria, has not been farmed up, because because there are issues of security too. Pipelines are going to go through dangerous areas in the desert, and they could also be liable for vandalization and all kinds of things.
Yeah. So we're taking we're looking at the long-term, benefits, if you like, of the project. But what happened to, the one we're dealing with within, for instance, talking about the Ajaokuta, Kaduna, Kano.
Yes.
Now powering the corridors, the industrial hubs.
Exactly.
Shouldn't we start from there? At least if we can revive our local economy by, completing this project, at least we said we're getting somewhere, for instance.
Yes, but you have to look at the model, the economic, the model of it, the business model, because definitely you are building an infrastructure that should be able to sustain itself, by way of operationability, profitability of what you are going to do. And I do not think, but of course, maybe for the sake of goodwill, for the sake of serving your people, you may say that, okay, you will supply, to Kaduna, Kano, so that the industries which are comatose today will now begin to work and people will have employment. And by so doing, you will reduce the insecurity, problem that we're having today. And again, like he was saying, you see, I remember when I was carrying out a study on behalf of 90, and I had to go on Bonga, that is the one Shell, owned by Shell, that's for crude oil. And then I had to interrogate the captain of that floating terminal. And you know what he told me? I said, why do you allow all these crude oil theft and things happening? He said, we're not here to fight war. We're here to do business. So it is your country that should fight this war. And you know why they are saying so? Because the model, how we now transport the oil from the wellheads, to the terminals. You know what they do? Anything that is lost in between from the wellheads to the terminal, it's not, they are not affected. Because at the end of the day, it is only when it gets to the terminal that they introduce what they call net back system formula to now calculate your production, with 0.001% or something like that, or whatever. So they are not concerned about all these problems they are talking about. Otherwise, they would have closed down. They have left this country a long time ago. And even the ones that they affect, then you can see they are selling off the facilities and what have you. So the point I'm trying to make, which is what he said, is that unless we solve the problem of insecurity, vandalization, because people are invest, like he says, in the receiving facilities, it's a lot of money they're going to invest. And if they believe that you cannot secure the pipelines to ensure, guarantee them supply, that they will receive this supply as at when it is needed, they may not be interested.
But what happened to perhaps contracts for the securing the pipelines? I understand there have been existing contracts, by the federal government, to guarantee the safety of these pipelines. And again, even the current projects, for instance, I think the design is such that the pipelines will be sink deeper, such that it will be difficult for vandals to have access to it. So isn't all of these plans, going to help solve the problem?
Yeah, perhaps you may be right, but let me tell you, those who are going to steal are not just ordinary thieves. In most cases, they are also as sophisticated as those who are burying the pipelines today, because they obviously will have to make their programs and studies and things like that and see how they're going to do it. So, but the issue of security, you see, when you talk about the offshore, and then the stealing going on, crude oil theft on, it is still government that is stealing the crude oil and gas, because you have the Navy.
You say government.
Yes, I think government. I say government because who are the ones that are perpetrating this crude oil theft? It is the military. It is the Navy. Right. They are the ones collaborating colluding with them.
I think their mandate is actually to secure the pipelines.
No. It's not only secure. They are supposed to stop, the theft.
Okay.
But how do they do it? They collude, and it's known. So this is the reason why other countries, do not believe in what you are doing unless you have a government.
Right.
Unless you have a government that has proper leadership, that takes corruption and tackle it.
Sorry for the interruption. I understand we have to take a break. In case you're just joining us, the program is Daily Politics. We'll be back shortly. Stay with us.
That's great. All right. It's good to see you.
Thank you very much for staying with us. It's still Daily Politics, and today we're looking at the AKK. We're revisiting, Nigeria's, largest, if you like, pipeline project that is expected, to transport gas not only within Nigeria but even beyond the shores of Nigeria. And we're looking at the challenges of delivering this very key project with experts in the industry, talking about Engineer Abag Yusuf Sani and, of course, Elias Fugadu. Just before the break, Engineer was actually talking about safety and security of this investment, if you like, the pipelines, how they can be secured so that the end result will be achieved. But some, I wonder if a government which is serious about this project, the fact that it's one of its legacy projects would not put into consideration all of these things we are talking about. Is it to say that the conception of the project and the structure is faulty in the first place? Or what exactly is the problem with the delivery?
Well, there are so many issues regarding the AKK. It sounds like AK-47 now.
Sounds
exactly.
Like
anyway,
right.
There are so many issues around this project that has not been firmly settled.
What are these issues?
One of them is about the feed gas. Now, you're going to start the project from Ajaokuta. You're going to rely on feedstock from gas gathering facilities that would feed Ajaokuta, and then this, from Ajaokuta, you pipe the gas through to those areas. Now, that is an area of issue, challenge, because at the end of the day, seeing what is happening with even the pioneer project, gas project in Nigeria, NLNG, how are you sure that you've secured the feedstock from these companies? Mark you, these companies are going to provide the feedstock are companies that IOC companies. You have to have a separate agreement with them, commercial and technical, to deliver this to Ajaokuta. Now, the other issue again is when you now pipe this gas through this, at the end of the project, for instance, when you pipe this gas, you have spurs into maybe Kaduna and Kano, who are going to be the off-takers. At what price are they going to take it? And then again, you are also going to ask yourself, what are the facilities, the infrastructure, the receiving terminals? Here, even for these companies or these off-takers to take it. And then, if you now want to
has that not been provided in the project itself?
It's assumed. It's assumed because the main issue regarding that pipeline is for it to go right across the Trans-Saharan into Morocco. So we are trying to piggyback on this project so that we can now at least use it because there is no need why something of this nature is going through our country and is going to Morocco or Algeria, and we are not part of it. So it's okay, well, since it's coming, let's have AKK. Within this trunk line, we can now say when it gets to Abuja here, there will be a spur where we'll have LPG, facilities, receiving facilities, or where we have, power plants that will power industries and houses and utilities. The same thing goes to Kano, the same thing in Kano, Zaria, Kaduna, and the rest of them, Sharada and all that. Now, this has not been properly explained. What we are thinking about is, okay, we are going to pipe this gas right up to Morocco, and within the area that affects us, which is between Ajaokuta and Kano, we are going to try to make arrangements. That is the assumption.
Yeah.
But then the devil is in the details.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have the NNPC people here. We've made effort to see if we can get even the spokesman to be on the platform. Perhaps they will be able to provide these details we're talking about. But then, still looking at how we can get out of the woods, because it's a very fundamental project that shouldn't be allowed to just die. It's an initiative that is well laudable, some would say. And then we were also talking about the impact it would make in the northern part of the country. basically talking about addressing insecurity, reviving the economy, because industries would, come back and then people would get jobs and what have you. So how do we, change this trajectory? What can the government do, at this very point in time? We're talking about less than, a year to the finishing line, and government wouldn't want, such a project to just go down the drain.
There's nothing government can do other than to fight insecurity, and then ensure that corruption is not just ignored, with this kind of high level of levity as we have ignored it. So those are the things government can do as government. Investors will not just come, in a basket case like we have in Nigeria here. It's not possible. Because they can't solve your problems for you. You have to solve it. So the government has
to create
job
an
cut out for
enabling
it.
environment.
Yes, look at NLNG. People that have invested so much money now in it, they say they've lost $7 billion just in 2022. Revenue they've lost because why? They couldn't get supply. Why couldn't they get supply? Vandalization of pipelines. And we know these people are doing it. Why can't government arrest them? Why can't we deal with our own situations, deal with these things? Why do we just, seem as if we are helpless? So, and that's not the case. Understandably, yes, in this country we have a lot of issues. Issue of people that are not even happy, with the way these resources that they believe is God-given to them in their backyard is being filtered away, being stolen by others. There's that, issue of
that perception.
That perception, which is another problem. And then, of course, you have the technical problems, like you were saying, and you have the problem of outright stealing. So the issue is that government still, there's no other person who can solve this problem. It is not so much about the technical aspect of it. It's not so much about you cannot find money, but it's so much about how prepared are you, how organized are you. Are you really serious? Look at what is happening in Ukraine today and all these things. Look at Europe. They are now, at a very disturbed, situation. They are disturbed about what is going to happen to their economy because gas is a very important,
commodity
energy source, to run the economy. So they wouldn't like to put their trust in here when they know that people are not reliable, because government here must sit up. That's the only way we can take advantage of these God-given resources that we should take advantage of.
Right, talking about setting up, being organized and then taking this issues very seriously. For investors to also take you serious. How do we, how do we build this confidence of investors who are really ready to do business with us, but the enabling environment is not perhaps there? How do we create an enabling environment for all of this?
Well, just as the senior engineer has said, the principal responsibility of government is to create confidence, and part of creating that confidence is securing the country. No investor wants to come to a country where his investment will not be safe. It could be built. The vandals could just, you're talking about highly technical infrastructure that costs money, And now let's look at it. We are not the only country in the world that has gas reserves. Yes, we have gas reserves. They are good in future. But if we cannot put the mix together, they will go elsewhere. And that's why, yes, Europe needs our gas. We are very, very much, in an advantageous situation. But then, what have we done to ensure that investors find this place a province where they could put their money in and then help us? Because you see, we cannot do it by ourselves. You are talking about waste, helping blocking the waste
leakages.
Yes, but at the end of the day, we also need technical partners. The LNG is running today because it has technical partners. Shell is a technical partner, and Shell is one of the acclaimed leaders in LNG management in the world. So you need to create the enabling environment in terms of securing the gas fields. As it is now, nobody, even with as much as they're thirsty for our gas, they will not want to put their money here. if we do not help secure because the whole thing is about the feedstock. If at the ab initio you can't get the feedstock through to the pipes or to the receiving terminals, then you have not done anything.
But what happened to our investment? You know, it is not to say that there is total absence of security, for instance. There is a particular, you know, arm of the security, if you like, or security outfit that was designed primarily to provide protection to the pipelines and some of these investments. The Civil Defense Corps,
what happened?
Yeah, but
that's one. We have also the Nigerian,
all kinds of outfits, Nigerian Navy,
the Navy and all of that. So what happened to the investment in that?
Yeah, but let me just give you the danger of gas pipelines intervention is different from crude oil. Crude oil, you could spill it. You could, you know, I mean, for the people involved, it's a boon. They can make a lot of money out of it. But for gas, you won't make money out of it because it flares off, and it creates and it's highly flammable. And the pressure at which the gas is piped through the pipes is such that if there you have an interference at one point, it spirals off, and then it creates, you know, even a condition for burning. I mean, for real inflammable. So it's not even advisable. But then, and then you were talking earlier on about securing it, putting it deep down. It doesn't, because these guys are highly technical. They know how to interfere, how to vandalize the pipelines. But in this case, in the case of gas pipelines, it's not about getting at the product, because even if you get at the product, it will not be of it. You can't pipe it, you can't put it in a barge or in somewhere and go and sell it off. You can't even go near it, because once you go near it, the pressure. If you have ever been to, the pressure of a gas flare or gas explosion is there, and it covers the entire atmosphere there, and it's dangerous. So
highly implemented.
So, but people go ahead and do it. That's what LNG is finding to its cost. And you can imagine LNG losing about $7 billion in a year. Now, this is more than the cost of the project we're talking about now. So 3 times more the cost. So if people hear this and it's there, it's not, listen, you are going to scare them, because definitely you are going to have technical partners who are going to be part of this arrangement. In fact, they are going to, whether it's the Chinese, whether it's the Germans, whether it's the Dutch, or whether it's Americans or British or whatever, the technical partners would want to have guarantees. They want to have a lot of guarantees that their investment, their technical is
secured.
Even if they are covered by cash calls and by other instruments, they will still need to ensure that these facilities are secure, because at the end of the day, where this thing is going to go is in their countries, and they don't want to hear that the gas that we are expecting to power our utilities has been intercepted or it's having a problem in somewhere in West Africa, in Nigeria. They don't want to hear that. So what I'm going to say is that the gas issue relies on reliability. If you are not a reliable supplier, nobody goes in there, because there's a lot of money involved. And in our own case, we have not even talked about, as I said, NNPC should have been here.
Yeah,
the off-takers,
we hope that they will be here.
The off-takers,
because they really need to. This is a flagship project of the NNPC. Need to provide answers.
They need to provide answers. It's not just that, okay, you have done the project, you've left it. No, you have to ensure that off-takers are technical. That's why, for instance, I'll give you the example of NLNG. NLNG has a lot of LPG to give out. But it also has to ensure that the off-takers are technically capable, because you don't give such a project to people who don't have the technical
capacity. Right.
You have to be judged according to the capacity you have.
That's right.
If you don't have that capacity, you are handling something that is very, very delicate and dangerous.
Okay.
So it cannot be left in your own hands. The same thing with what goes through these pipelines to spurs in Kaduna, Kano, and the rest of them. So that's what needs to be addressed, for us to be able to know that this project, will help the North as we expect it to.
And Nigeria by extension.
Nigeria by extension.
If the North is secured in terms of job security, the issue of insecurity would also have to, go into decline. Now, let's look at the funding, securing the funds. I understand there is an alternative, there is another window that the NNPC is leveraging on. That's the $5 billion corporate finance from Afro-Exim Bank, which was said to have been secured. Why is it difficult perhaps to take part of this and channel it towards this project, looking at the importance and the viability?
Well, I don't know the conditions under which that facility was granted, but I'm sure that it will not be anything outside security, of the investments, and the fact that, like he says, have you gotten the off-takers, people that are going to buy, this gas, so that going forward, if I release the $5 billion to you, I have people that are going to buy this and then will recover the loan that we are giving to you. So if that has not been properly tied up yet, definitely the bank will be very, very reluctant, to just give the money out like that. It's not that they won't give it. They can say, yes, it's secured, but 1, 2, 3, 4 things must be concluded so that we are sure that the investment will come back to us, long after we have done it. So I think those are the things that we're talking about. And again, it has to do with the kind of leadership that we have in the country, because because unfortunately for us, this sector today is so public sector driven. It's driven by government, in its totality. We are not managed.
Though the expectation is that with the new law in the industry, the PIA should open up, to private investments.
PIA to me is a dummy that was sold to Nigerians. It's a dummy, believe you me. And it's coming out that it's a dummy, because look at what is happening with even the issue of subsidy. Look at what's happening with NNPCL. Look at nothing has been concluded in terms of what Nigerians will get from the PIA, like you mentioned, because instead of investments coming into the country, there's capital flight. The oil companies, most of them are selling off their facilities, especially divesting out of Nigeria. So and the only reason why we put out that piece of legislation, was to attract investment, isn't it?
And it is coming at a very critical time. The country is also facing,
Let me address the issue.
Financial
issue you talked about, the financial and the alternative source from Afrexim. I think we should be very careful so as not to open ourselves out to litigation. One of the conditions under which the Chinese gave us for handling, for providing the financing
for the AKK
was because a Chinese company was going to handle the contract. But because of the reneging on the issues of security, which is part of what they call force majeure, they must have pulled out and said, look, we need to be guaranteed that there's going to be security, otherwise we would put our people on the line. But again, if we now go to African Exim Bank and secure a loan, and then maybe by one reason or the other they come into it, the Chinese can take us to arbitration. Because they will say, look, we have agreed
but I don't think it is for this project. It was for another project, if I get it right. So, but I'm just looking at it. If something can be done along that line to secure funding for this project that we're talking about. But we're rounding up. Let's look at also continuity, which is very, very critical. Now that the government is, winding up, so to speak, 2023, and then looking at the importance and the strategic importance of this project, especially to the northern part of the country, how sure are we, this laudable project would see the light of the day?
No, definitely, like I told you before, there's no government that is worth its name, that will come to power and will not ensure that this project is conclusively, completed, to its logical conclusion. In terms of securing all the various agreements and then enable the environment that you're supposed to have, so that you can begin to now benefit from these fabulous, natural resources that God has given to you. It's beats one's imagination that government, Muhammadu Buhari, that came to power, almost getting to 7 to 8 years now, cannot complete one gigantic project that you can point to as a legacy that they leave behind. So it's no government will ever want that to happen to them. And this, this project was not even conceived by Buhari. It was conceived by the Jonathan government. So I doff my cap, for Jonathan and also for Buhari. Right. But the tragedy now is that here they are, like you said,
to deliver.
to conclude.
We hope that the government will summon the necessary,
Yeah. And instead, you end up instead of giving the North, some
party
least,
Yes.
you are giving us misery, tears, and whatever.
Unfortunately,
in terms of insecurity, killings, and kidnappings, and everything. Even your own house, Katsina.
We have to come.
How bad can it get?
We have to come to the end of this program.
This is unfortunate.
Thank you very much, Engineer Ayamagi Yusuf Sani, and of course, Ilyasu Gadu, for your perspectives on this very important topic, looking at the AKK and the challenges of delivering, this multi-billion-dollar project. Thank you very much once again for coming. And on behalf of the technical crew, this is where we come to the end of today's edition of Daily Politics. Join us tomorrow. We'll be back with another topic and personalities. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day.